Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pain, Ranting Monkey.
Hey, guys.
And the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What up now?
Somewhere in the distance is the Lord of Penis, Squishy.
She's on the couch.
All right. I'm trying to think of something. I can't think of anything clever right now for that other thing I was about to say, so I'll skip it for now. I was going to say something like, and the Lord of something that starts with a P, Sweetus. But we're not quite there yet, I guess.
Wasn't it Lord of Placenta?
Oh, that's right, Lord of Placenta. Lord of Placenta. Sweetus! Man, that kid's never going to
My memory worked, y'all.
I know. Good for you.
Holy shit.
Oh, my God. Gold star on Monkey's forehead. And I am your Lord of Punishment, Scribe. Hello, chat. Hello, everyone. Hope your week has gone well thus far, and your weekend is looking, if not warm, at least hopefully comfortable, because there is a storm covering half the country right now, or on the way to, depending on where you live. But otherwise, how are you guys doing? How are you, Satsu?
Pretty good. It wasn't an eventful day at all, but it was interesting. I entertained myself.
Sounds very intimate. And how are you, Monkey?
How are you, Scribe?
Well, with that kind of pregnant pause, you're almost as bad as Squishy.
Rough day, but
all right. Thank you, Point Curation. Ought we feed the hand that bites? Yeah, well, if you have a hand that bites, you're probably watching a Guillermo del Toro movie. If you know what I mean. Or Vampire Hunter D, I suppose. That's always possible. I am pretty good overall. There was a lot of hecticness. My insurance thing finally got fixed in time that it wasn't a major detriment to certain things oncoming. Did I talk about that the other day? I think I did.
You did.
Yeah, you brought it up.
Yeah. So that finally got squared away. And but there was more chaos at work today, unfortunately. Speaking of which, I got to do something on the sly here while I'm talking to you guys, because I forgot to do it before I started the show, which I should have done before. So I will be doing that on the side. You guys are streaming tonight, right? You got something you can talk about for a second or three?
We will be streaming over on 2 Cents Plus. We'll be playing 7 Days to Die. We'll be giving away a game, but Satsu and I, we dropped the ball this week again. We didn't pick one in advance, so we'll have to let you know what that is.
No more perfect date.
I don't have another copy.
Oh. Okay. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you just fine, yes.
Okay. I'm checking something. Sorry, guys. Because I totally spaced on doing this before I came on the show. But now I can do it because I have that power, because I'm a powerful individual who can remote into my my workstation at work and do a thing that I was supposed to do.
Oh, so he's using us so he can get his work done, y'all.
No.
Yeah, that's what you just said.
Well, I have to do it. I don't have a choice. So either I do it now or I get in deep trouble.
You know, we did talk about the game last week. We're actually going to get...
Here we go.
I'll have to talk about Satsu, how we want to do this. I'll talk to him in private during the show.
You mean like on like DMs or something?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my work stuff is now done.
Good.
And thankfully I remember to do that now, because that would have been kind of a disaster if I didn't. Anyway, guys, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones, movies, video games. Hit that like button if you have not already, and a good number of you have not. Now, we hit over 100 before we ended the first half hour on my last broadcast. So can we do that again? I mean, we did it like in the first 17 minutes or something, I think, last time. It was something like that, wasn't it?
Your channel's the only channel where people actually try, so it's probably going to happen.
They don't even look at mine. They're like, fuck, Monkey.
Yeah, it's because I scold them. It's because I'm a dom, you see. And they also like our show. And they want to please us. But anyway, yeah, so maybe we can get to 100 before we get to 17 minutes. That's the new marker, guys. That's the new record. 17 minutes into the show. So we're at 55 now from 42. Good job. I guess we'll check it back in a few minutes. And otherwise, share our stuff. please, 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 as every day goes by, YouTube cares less and less about doing any, advertising, notification, distribution on our behalf, even though we bring in money to them. It's not much. It's not big money, but it's honest money. So if you like a creator's stuff, whether it's us or someone else, please retweet it, share it on Facebook, share the link, talk about it, whatever, because you guys are the algorithm for our success. Hey, that's a great phrase. The algorithm for our success.
Yes.
It's almost like the PBS thing. Thanks to viewers like you. Thank you, Connor Johnson. I'm a big fan of Mike Judge's work. What about you guys? Beavis and Butthead was like my favorite thing as a teenager on MTV, better than the videos. And Idiocracy is a prescient genius piece of artwork. But yeah, and I like King of the Hill. I didn't watch that much of King of the Hill, but I liked what I saw in the first couple seasons.
I loved Beavis and Butthead, but from there, I never saw any of the stuff I really cared for. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't Beavis and Butthead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He peaked with his first major project that everybody knew him for, and that's a hard thing to do. There's bits of brilliance in King of the Hill and Idiocracy, but aside from those three things, Beavis and Butthead and those two, yeah, I don't know much of his other work or would care to seek it out, I guess, unless somebody really proved to me that it was worth my time. James Colley says, thank you. You're not the boss of me, Scribe. Or Scrib. Scrib? I don't want no Scrib. Scrib is a guy who tells me what to do. Random says he peaked with Butthead. Yikes. Yeah.
Peaked with Butthead. Yeah. Well,
it was just such a cultural phenomenon at the time.
Yeah.
And that's not to say his other stuff isn't good, but I mean, how do you beat Cornholio? I mean, come on.
I am Cornholio, and he teaches from Bunghole. All right. Well, anyway, that aside, we are now at 70 likes at 7 minutes in. Oh my gosh. You might be able to do it, guys. Only 30 more. Can we get 30 more in the next 10 minutes? Be amazing. Anything else to talk about before we get into the schnuzz?
No.
Waffles.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do something for the second time this week that I didn't imagine I'd be doing, but it really does reflect the news cycle today. And that comes in the form of our favorite friend at CNN, Chris Eliza. And I want to tell you a tale of two Chris's, if you'll indulge me. This Chris spoke to us earlier this afternoon. This may be the smoking gun in the Russia investigation.
Oh.
Yes. So this was this afternoon, remember. We'll get to what happened later shortly. For much of the past 20 months, President Donald Trump and his administration have insisted that, for all of the smoke surrounding the 2016 campaign, there was no fire. A lot of people in Trump's orbit engaging in conversations and relationships with Russian officials, but no evidence of collusion, and certainly nothing that linked Donald Trump to any wrongdoing. That very well might have changed Thursday night with this report from Buzzfeed. Quote, President Donald Trump directed his longtime attorney, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, according to two federal law enforcement officials involved in an investigation of the matter. Trump also supported a plan set up by Cohen to visit Russia during the presidential campaign in order to personally meet President Vladimir Putin and jumpstart the tower negotiations. Make it happen, the sources said Trump told Cohen, unquote. The BuzzFeed story also claims that Cohen confirmed this information to special counsel Robert Mueller after, quote, the special counsel's office learned about Trump's directive for Cohen to lie to Congress through interviews with multiple witnesses from the Trump Organization and internal company emails, text messages, and a cache of other documents.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I can't help myself. Did they just say Mueller's team confirmed this information?
Let me see. Hold on. The BuzzFeed story also claims that Cohen confirmed this information to special counsel Robert Mueller. Not that,
Okay.
not that Mueller's confirmed it. The Cohen.
Yeah, I heard that part wrong. I wanted to be
the
sure.
claim. Yeah, it's the claim that Cohen confirmed it. Okay. Hold on a second here. Where was the thing I wanted to? Okay. If the BuzzFeed report is true, and yes, that remains an if, since CNN has not corroborated the reporting, then the entire Russia conversation changes. As Attorney General nominee Barr helpfully noted earlier this week, the president telling someone who works for him to lie to Congress about an ongoing investigation is obstruction of justice, and obstruction of justice is a crime. The question is where Mueller would go next, assuming he has the goods on Trump for obstruction. Okay, so that was Chris of this afternoon. Now, wait, what? That's not the story that that was Chris Saliza tweeted this out. Wait a second. I thought I pulled up 2 Chris Saliza stories. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, guys. I might have made a mistake, but...
You have been smelled.
No, he didn't. Okay, so he tweeted it out, but he didn't actually comment. All right, well, my bad. Chris wanted us to know that Mueller's office disputes BuzzFeed report that Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress. And this just happened about 30 minutes or so before the stream started. Special counsel Robert Mueller's office disputed an explosive story from BuzzFeed News as not accurate, unquote, Friday night, after the news outlet reported that the president had directed his personal attorney, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress, for which Cohen was later prosecuted. Quote, BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate, said Peter Carr, a spokesman for Mueller's office, in a statement. It is highly unusual for the special counsel's office to provide a statement to the media outside of court filings and judicial hearings about any of its ongoing investigative activities. But following the story's publication late Thursday night, Democratic members of Congress began pointing to the report as grounds for the president's impeachment. The clamor grew throughout the day and into Friday night. The BuzzFeed story by reporters Jason Leopold and Anthony Cormier, I don't know which, asserted that Cohen had told special counsel investigators that after the election, the president personally instructed him to lie by claiming that negotiations for Trump's development project in Moscow ended months earlier than they actually did in order to obscure Trump's involvement. Let's see. BuzzFeed wrote, attributing its assertion to 2 law enforcement sources. The sources also said the special counsel's office had corroborating Trump company emails, text messages, and other documents, though the BuzzFeed reporters were unclear Friday in television interviews about whether they had seen the documents described in their story. The special counsel's office did not go into detail about which parts of the BuzzFeed story they were calling untrue. The BuzzFeed story made several other claims that remained uncorroborated by other media outlets regarding Cohen's lies to Congress and communications with Mueller. So, real quick, thank you, James Colley. You're fucking kidding. BuzzFeed not accurate? Never. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. Pissgate 2.0. Thank you, Citron. Get a damn Streamlab. YouTube is gross. Thank you, Snubber. So they pulled a smoking gun out of their flaming ass. Yeah, so everybody went, as soon as I heard that the story was source was BuzzFeed, I was like, okay, guys, take a step back. It's BuzzFeed. And when I saw Chris Saliza pumping it out as big news, like this is a big deal, guys. Like every week we get a big deal in this whole deal. I'm like, Chris, seriously, do a little journalistic effort, please, because uncorroborated reports back in my day were called rumors and not worthy of being published as news. Thank you, Cryptic. I told my ex she should embrace her mistake. She gave me a hug. Aww. And thank you, Adebisi. Serial killer alert in Gardnerville, Nevada.
Ooh.
Okay, I will look that up. I'm still waiting for them to find the Gilgo Beach killer over on the East Coast. But you were going to say something, Monkey.
Yeah, last night when we logged off, right before we logged off, actually, somebody had sent me a tweet, and I forget who it's from. It's around somewhere. I apologize. I don't have it in front of me. But it was somebody really mad because when you say BuzzFeed News is your source, they don't take you seriously. I'm like, well, sure they don't. And then I read the CNN story like 5 minutes later, like, oh, this is why people are pissed off. Because CNN used fucking BuzzFeed as their source for this article.
Yeah.
And then even said, we haven't corroborated this.
Yeah.
That is not news. That is rumor mongering.
Yeah, and it's similar. This is what CNN is now, apparently, or at least the parts that I see online very often. They're not generating their own content. They are simply rebroadcasting stuff from the Washington Post mainly, or in this case, just saying, BuzzFeed said a thing, and now we're saying it too, but don't worry. I mean, it's not corroborated or anything, but here it is.
You know what they are? They're a longer form version of the Drudge Report.
Well, I mean, I said when Trump got elected that CNN would turn into Gawker. I mean, it was already on its way earlier that year and in the Trump cycle and everything. But I said as soon as Trump becomes the reality TV show that he would be as a president, CNN and other outlets, but especially CNN, would become Gawker. And it really has become that. And as I was reading that Chris D'Elia piece today, I was thinking back to this scene in All the President's Men. Okay, where James Robards as, I forget his first name, but Bradley, the guy who was running the Washington Post at the time. And he's going over the first offering from Woodward and Bernstein of their article about Watergate, or at least the initial information on it. And he takes a red pen. And he's like, nope, can't corroborate that, can't corroborate that. He says, that's what you can put in there. He says, well, that's not even the story we wanted to put in there. He says, you can't back any of the rest of this stuff up. So it's not either that's what you're printing or you're not printing anything at all. And that is just some very pragmatic integrity on a journalistic level that is completely absent from CNN and especially Chris D'Elia. It's like somebody said something, so let's just put it out there. I mean, we'll mention it's not corroborated just to cover our ass. We won't say it's necessarily the truth, but we'll give all of this speculation about where it's going to go and how this is maybe the smoking gun and this is a really big deal, rather than actually being, hey, why don't you take a second, do some fucking work of your own and find out if this is worthy of you guys rebroadcasting it. But they don't care anymore. They don't care.
Well, that's because with Trump being enemy number one, and with them, literally, they can say anything. Like Trump literally murdered a baby in front of the press. Like he snapped a baby's neck. And they'll be like, well, it happened until somebody I trust tells me that it didn't. They know that they don't have to anymore. They're like, we don't have to because the people used to get upset. Like uncorroborated stories or whatever, they would go be up in arms about that shit. Like if you don't know, like what the fuck are you talking about? Like but they don't get upset anymore. People just cheer that shit on. They're like, we don't care if it's true or not. Just tell us things that we want to hear about people we don't like, and we'll be okay with it. And if it turns out not true, we'll just pretend like it didn't happen. It's easy.
Yeah. And I know that, and as many people in the chat have sort of alluded to, I know I should not be surprised by this anymore. I know I shouldn't expect anything better from CNN or most of the major outlets anymore, because this is just the new normal, apparently. But as I've always said, cynicism requires hope, at least a seed of it. And I hope at some point that something like journalistic integrity returns to some of the bigger outlets out there, because we need it. We need actual journalism done to hold people's feet to the fire and not the sensationalism. Because when you become as sensationalistic as your subject matter, neither of you are taken seriously. And I don't like that dynamic in the Fourth Estate. You know, I just don't like it. So what can I tell you? But anyway, so that really kind of ticked me off today. And also the thing of like everybody saying this is a big deal or this is a big event or something. Like, yeah, just like the last one. What was the last one you told us about that was a big deal? I don't even remember now because it was a Manafort thing about
Manafort. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a really big deal. What have we heard about that since? Nothing. Now, we don't know, as the CNN article said, we don't know what about the BuzzFeed article is inaccurate. But the fact that they came out to say anything at all kind of takes the wind out of the sails that it's some smoking gun, this is the big deal kind of thing.
But for Mueller's office to come out and dispute it, that is, they haven't done that with anything else.
Yeah, pretty much. So far as I recall, yeah,
This is the first time they've come out and gone, that's bullshit.
Yeah. And wasn't am I mistaken, or was BuzzFeed the initial source for the whole Steele memo?
They're the first ones who published it. Everybody else was like, we're not publishing this. And then I remember because I did a video on this.
Right.
Yeah, they were like, well, we're going to run with it because that was smart.
Let's see, 20 minutes after, and we're at 90.
Night, honey, I love you.
We almost made it, guys. 2 more, and we'll get it before the end of the first half hour, though, which is still great. So thank you. But yeah, anyway, so that was kind of the thing that kind of took over the news cycle today. It's like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. This is the thing. He did the thing and the stuff and the thing. And hey, for all I know, at some point they will come up with something that shows he did something wrong, but they still haven't. And I'm more upset about the media's reaction to this than I am anybody else. It's just like, oh, well, this outlet that's known for making videos that are about, like, BuzzFeed, really? BuzzFeed?
Yeah.
Taken seriously as a news organization? Come on.
And not just when you say, look, if we have independently corroborated what BuzzFeed said, okay, then you can point out they were the original source.
Yeah.
When they are literally your only source, no.
Yeah.
No, that makes you look like an ass.
Yeah. It's something like following up on reporting from BuzzFeed. CNN has confirmed that. There you go. You've given them credit, but you've also done your own legwork to find out something. That's fine. And that would be legit if you could actually corroborate it independently. That's the whole thing. You need at least, someone from the other side of the coin to look at it objectively, or at least more objectively than you did as the originating source, and say, it's sort of like science. Some scientists put out a theory or put out a paper, other, peer review, people check it out, see if they can recreate it, and then you can confirm it as a functioning theory. Nope, not here. Just throw something out in the ether that sounds good. That's it. Anyway, enough of that. We're at 100 likes before the end of the half hour. Thank you, guys. Yay. In other news, an update to a story we talked about, I think it was just last night. So I remember the American journalist who worked for Iranian TV who was arrested.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read the headline because it was convoluted last night. American journalist who works for Iranian TV is being held as a material witness. Of what? I don't know. Marzia, if I'm saying that right, Marzia Hashemi, an American anchor working for Iran's state television, is being held in the United States as a material witness and has not been accused of any crimes, a court document shows. Hashemi, a prominent anchor for Iranian state-funded Press TV, was arrested Sunday at the St. Louis International Airport, where she was filming a documentary on Black Lives Matter. The woman, who was born in the U.S. as Melanie Franklin, is expected to be released from a Washington, D.C. detention facility after she testifies before, quote, a grand jury investigating violations of U.S. criminal law, unquote, the court document released Friday said. It is not immediately clear what case Hashemi's testimony is of interest. Hashemi has been appointed an attorney and has made 2 appearances in federal court since her arrest. Her arrest has drawn criticism from the highest levels of the Iranian government. Quote, the custody of Iran's reporter in the U.S. is highly political and she should be released immediately, Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said, according to state-run IRNA News. So she was arrested to be a witness, but she hasn't committed any crimes that they've announced so far. Can you be arrested to be a witness? Seems a little odd.
Maybe in Iran.
Thank you, Kingslayer Damocles. Who do you trust the most? BuzzFeed, Fox, CNN, Vice, or The Guardian?
The Guardian.
Out of that batch right now, probably The Guardian.
Yeah.
I find a lot of their opinion columns and things kind of comical, but their actual like reporting is, generally speaking, has far more journalistic integrity than the other outlets you named.
Especially if you're talking about U.S. reporting. If it comes to European reporting, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when it comes to politics here in the States, they tend to get it better than any of those guys.
Yeah. So yeah, still curious as to what she's testifying for, and not being a legal expert, it seems odd to me that you would arrest somebody to compel them to testify. I mean, if you subpoena someone and they like don't show up, then I suppose you have the power to arrest them, right? Conceivably, yeah. I don't know. Again, not a lawyer, not a lawyer dog. I think we have a lawyer dog in the chat right now. But
they said that she is American, but she does her job in
right.
Okay, so does she live there, or is she a U.S. citizen? They said she was coming here to visit. So
yeah, I assume she has some kind of dual residency if she's working there and is changed her name and everything.
Okay,
maybe through marriage, because I don't know how it works. Let's see. And finally, I thought I'd bring up the weather, as I did earlier, because this is apparently some like momentous event, this winter storm that's hitting the northern part of the world. Is it hitting you right now, Monkey?
We're, as far as I know, at least for the rest of this week, we're just getting really, really cold weather. It's supposed to be like 18 tomorrow and then a top of 7 the day after.
Yikes. So winter storm expected to bring snow and ice to millions in the Midwest and Northeast. The second of a series of storms moving across the country will bring significant snow and ice to the north and heavy rains and severe weather to the south on Friday and into the weekend. Roughly 115 million people are under some form of a winter storm watch, warning, or advisory across the United States. Travel Friday and Saturday has already been affected, with nearly 1,300 flights with domestic connections canceled, according to the flight tracking site FlightAware.com. Airlines are issuing waivers for travelers in the Midwest and Northeast. The airport in Omaha, Nebraska closed for several hours after a Southwest Airlines flight went off a runway while taxiing. The airliner slid onto a runway overrun area. None of the 150 passengers and 6 crew members were injured, thankfully.
Cool.
The storm system is associated with the same upper-level energy as one on the West Coast that dumped rain in Los Angeles and elsewhere, as well as caused blizzard conditions in the Sierra Nevada. Let's see. So, in sub-headlines to this, snow is likely in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Chicago. Icing is possible along the I-95 corridor in New England. And a flash freeze is likely behind the storm.
Beautiful.
So Monkey will finally get his the day after tomorrow scenario.
Yeah. We got to run from that global warming, y'all.
Run from the global warming. Oh, my God, it's going to freeze a helicopter in midair.
Hi, Nuts. How are you, sweetie?
But yeah. Let me make sure that nothing more has broken. I'm going to CNN only because it's the default I have on my browser. Oh yeah, this happened today. This was one of our stories that happened today. Former Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke sentenced to 81 months for fatally shooting Laquan McDonald. Jason Van Dyke, the former Chicago cop whose fatal 2014 shooting of black teenager Laquan McDonald reignited the fervent nationwide conversation about police shootings, was sentenced Friday to 6 years and 9 months in prison. The veteran police officer was convicted in October of second-degree murder and 16 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm for the shooting in October 2014. The shooting and video of it prompted protests throughout Chicago and calls for Van Dyke to face serious prison time. On Friday, he was sentenced on just the murder charge, Cook County Judge Vincent Gahan said. The aggravated battery charges carried potentially more prison time. Special Prosecutor Joe McMahon, who had recommended that Van Dyke be sentenced to a minimum of 18 years for the aggravated battery charges, said justice was served. This is a significant sentence, McMahon said. I and this team are satisfied we achieved our goal of justice and holding Jason Van Dyke accountable for his actions. 6 years for second-degree murder? Again, I'm not a legal expert. This seems a little low. One of Van Dyke's defense lawyers, Daniel Herbert, told reporters the former officer was happy with the verdict. Well, then I don't think it was enough time. If you're happy with being sentenced to jail for somebody you killed, I think that maybe the sentence wasn't harsh enough.
Well, I mean, maybe it's they recognize the error of their way, but they don't think they should go to jail for 25 years, something like that.
Here's how Okay, talk about a lawyer that really needs to keep his mouth shut. Quote, "He truly felt great," Herbert said after talking with his client for a few minutes. Quote, but then he went on to say, quote, "But he's certainly not happy about going to jail. He's not happy about missing his family, but he's happy about the prospect of life ahead of him," unquote. He killed somebody. He shouldn't be happy. I don't know. I don't think 6 years is enough for being a police officer and murdering somebody. Seems a bit low to me.
What's the definition of the second-degree murder that he got?
Well, let's see. It depends on the state. Let's say second-degree murder in Illinois. Okay, second-degree murder versus first-degree murder. First-degree murder. Under Illinois law, first-degree murder is defined in part as intending to kill or do great bodily harm to another, knowing that act would cause death without lawful justification. Okay, that's the summary. Second-degree murder. Second-degree murder was previously called voluntary manslaughter in Illinois, and it can be a complicated charge for jurors to understand. It requires jurors to find that the prosecutors have proved all the elements of first-degree murder. Then they must decide whether the defense has shown, quote, "It is more probably true than not true that Van Dyke believed he was justified, but that belief was unreasonable."
Okay. So I can kind of see him, see him being happy with it. What that's saying, he thinks he was reasonable, but the law doesn't.
Yeah, I suppose. Thank you, Diesel Dave. I just got out of the snow in Ranton, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it could snow in New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is me not knowing anything about the Southwest. So, well, I'm glad you're out of the snow and safe. Dave.
Yeah, drive safe, dude.
Yeah, especially with if you're driving a big old truck.
We're not going to talk about baby Hitler.
You are more than free to talk about baby Hitler.
Guys, this isn't really much of a story. They had the March for Life, and Ben Shapiro gave a speech there. He's pro-life. And he mentioned that any pro-lifer likely wouldn't want to kill baby Hitler, have him aborted. He said instead, what baby Hitler should be done is given to a better set of parents.
Oh.
And this lit the whole internet up with people arguing both for and against baby Hitler. There's not really much more to it than that, but it is fascinating to watch everybody run around with an opinion on it, especially because most of the opinions against it are still not really against the idea. It's more of just laughing at him for having said it.
Mm-hmm.
You got this Jew who's saying he wouldn't kill baby Hitler. That's kind of funny.
Well, I mean, I know it's like a joke or whatever, or it's just kind of silly to talk about. But we had this conversation where I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about whether or not, like, evil people, like if you look at Hitler, it's like, was he born evil? Did he come out the womb with a stash and everything and was just like, oh yeah, I can't wait till I get older so I can kill me some Jews? Or was it his circumstances that put him to that point? Because I actually heard this conversation before when people were saying, if you could go back and get this horrible person aborted at birth, would you do it? And there was like a conflict of people like, no, because while they're a baby, they can still be saved and changed, Yeah,
they haven't done anything as a baby.
Well, look, there was already just a vast scientific experiment done to prove whether or not Hitler could be recreated based on circumstance. Did you ever see the movie The Boys from Brazil?
No.
Oh, well, it was a Nazi experiment to create all these Hitler clones, and they set them with families and set up the circumstances to exactly mimic Hitler's growing up to see if they could reproduce the Fuhrer. Spoiler alert, it worked at the end. And if you haven't seen that, the book is really good. Same author who did Rosemary's Baby. The movie has Gregory Peck as Dr. Mengele. So it's a classic. It's a classic weird little thing. Also, Steve Guttenberg in one of his earliest roles in that movie. Fortunately, he gets murderized early on, but it's fine.
I say take baby Hitler, give him to a Canadian family. He'd grow up just fine.
Or become Justin Trudeau.
Well, still, but he'd stay within his own borders.
Maybe.
And that's what's important.
Anything else before we go into MSS Schnuz?
No, baby Hitler said it's okay to move on.
Does baby Hitler often speak to you, Monkey?
He does. He speaks to me in visions.
Those of you in the chat who are our meme artists, you have new fodder. Thank you, Snubbers. I heard Hitler's parents were cousins. I have no idea. I haven't spent much time in my life going over the biography of Adolf Hitler. But regardless, guys, if you have news stories you would like us to attempt to read on the air, please send them to us via Twitter using the hashtag MSSNews. Can't promise we'll get to them all, but that's because you guys send us a largesse of material, and we only have so much time. So this first one comes from Ayana. Whoa, it's one of those ones that gives me a gigantic graphic at the top and then little text underneath it. Brooklyn man shot dead while defending daughter. Oh, that's not good. A Brooklyn father was shot to death while defending his daughter over the weekend in Crown Heights. Shortly after 1:30 p.m. Sunday, 43-year-old Philip Scarlett was at his girlfriend's apartment in the Kingsborough houses, waiting for his daughter to arrive. Scarlett's family says his 14-year-old daughter, Tyra, went to meet him there to get money for her grandmother and to do laundry. When she arrived, two masked men attacked her right outside the apartment door. Quote, "That's when she cried out for daddy," said Scarlett's mother, Janet Howell. Quote, "He came out and realized what was going on, and he grabbed her and tossed her in the house, and she was struggling to keep them out of the house. They yanked him down the stairs and shot him." Scarlett was rushed to Interfaith Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. Scarlett's daughter told CBS2 her father's girlfriend emptied his pockets before police arrived. What? She also said the girlfriend waited 3 days before giving her family the cash and wallet Scarlett had on him when he was shot, showing a bullet hole piercing through it and everything inside, including a W-2 form. What? So was the girlfriend in on it?
I don't know, but
that's weird. Let's see. Police released photos of two men identified as persons of interest in the case. The first is described as a black man in his 30s, 5 feet 10 inches tall, 220 pounds. The second is a black man in his 20s, 5 feet 9 inches tall, 175 pounds. Police believe robbery was likely the motive. Scarlett's family says they were never convinced he was a random target because they say he never believed in banks and often carried a lot of cash in his pockets, which apparently the girlfriend decided to empty before the cops could get there, which that's so weird. Okay.
Man. So it was toxic masculinity that killed him.
Apparently so. Thanks, Gillette. This one comes from, excuse me, senior staff reporter and chief Florida correspondent, Colleen Bernier. Geez, just a day of lousy things. Let's see. This is a story from a few days ago, but I hadn't heard it before. Florida construction worker survives being buried alive.
Jesus.
Well, I'm glad the survived part is there. A Florida construction worker is recovering after being buried alive. An unidentified construction worker fell into a 30-foot hole and was completely covered by dirt Thursday. Gainesville fire rescuers used shovels and hands to dig through the dirt until they found the worker's head. Rescuers said he was breathing but not conscious. He regained consciousness as they uncovered him, and crews used a harness and ropes to lift him out. The Gainesville Sun reports the rescue took about 20 minutes. No details were given as to how the man fell into the hole. He fell into the hole? How do you fall except by falling? I don't know. Thank you, Dark Shade.
Probably like how he got so close to it or why he was there when they're dumping dirt.
I bet they were horsing around. They're probably trying to make a YouTube video. Thank you, Dark Shade. Eats a tub of mango yogurt enthusiastically. What?
You sharing?
Is that an inside joke for something?
It's probably.
I feel like that's just what they're doing.
No. I mentioned this morning on Monkey in the Morning that I think yogurt's fucking nasty.
Oh. And thank you, Pinkalo, the driving ape man. At least it wasn't a Puerto Rican. You mean the guy that was killed?
That's a South Park joke.
Oh, okay.
Some Puerto Rican guy.
I don't know these things. Keith,
he called it the South Park reference is going to go right over Scribe.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't know.
Some Puerto Rican guy.
Let's see. This one comes from Knight O'Charlemagne, creator of my avatar, which I'm still very thankful for. And speaking of The Guardian, but it's a Guardian opinion piece. So the headline is, sorry, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, your minority privilege is no longer secret. Okay. Minorities of the world gather around. I've got bad news. The jig is up. We've been rumbled. While I know we've all been trying to keep our minority privilege a secret, the whitest minds in America have put their heads together and found us out. On Thursday, the Fox News host Laura Ingraham went on a rant about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and how she benefits from a widespread but little discussed phenomenon called minority privilege. Like affirmative action?
No, not exactly.
Oh, okay. Fox News rants about Ocasio-Cortez every 5 minutes, but this particular outburst was prompted by the fact that she had posted a tweet noting that many people have recognized the network, quote, has crossed a line beyond conservatism and into outright bigotry with their financing of Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, unquote. Ingraham took offense at being called a bigot, surprise, surprise, and in an episode of the Laura Ingraham Show podcast, railed against the fact that you can't say anything racist these days without people calling you a racist.
I feel like that's not what she said.
That's not a quote.
That's not a quote. Ocasio-Cortez, she argued, was guilty of, quote, minority privilege, unquote, in her criticism of Fox News. Okay, now here's an actual quote, I think. Quote, how about the privilege of being a protected member of a class that you can never criticize lest you be called a racist, she asked.
Yeah, that is 100% factual.
And that was so unquote there. And back to the author. The fact that conservatives are obsessed with criticizing Ocasio-Cortez appears to have passed her by, self-awareness not really being her strong suit.
You mean how unself-aware you guys are about how much of Trump's dick is down your throat 24/7, but now you're just like, oh, well, they got somebody who they talk about, so they're obsessed. Not us, though. By the way, we're going to talk about Trump right after this, but not us.
Thank you, Dark Shade. Ranting uncultured swine.
You can keep your cultures to yourself. I'll eat ice cream.
Yoy. Let's see. Okay, back to the author. Now, I don't want to boast or anything, which of course means she's going to boast about something. But as a half-Palestinian lesbian, okay, I'm reading it as it's written. But as a half-Palestinian lesbian, I score pretty high on the official oppression scale, TM. Nevertheless, I'm not going to use my minority privilege to call Ingraham a racist.
Yes, you are, because you're doing it in an article.
You just did.
You just wrote a fucking whole article about doing exactly that.
I don't want to be divisive by bringing up uncomfortable facts, after all. No, I want to keep things civil and remind you that nobody in America is actually racist anymore. Could you sound more Miss Priss here? I mean... as you may have noticed, racism died out a long time ago. Now people just say racially tinged or racially charged things or stumble into race controversies. Sometimes they make inflammatory statements, or if they're Roseanne, they take Ambien and suffer unfortunate racist-like side effects, but they're not really racist. Tell me about the whitest minds in America again. Okay. Anyway.
She's not wrong about her argument there, Ingram. We read a story the other morning, I think it was, or maybe it was even on this show, but it was about Cortez and something stupid she said. Oh, no, was it Paul Krugman. He just wrote a long tweet in defense of her. And he's got in there about, race and sex, and there's nothing to do with race and sex and what people were criticizing her for. There was an article that did the same thing. This is racist and sexist, and it had nothing to do with her race or sex. And it is a shield that is being used to make it so you're not allowed to say anything bad about her, because if you do, you're obviously a racist, you're obviously sexist, and that shit is stupid.
And it is a perfectly valid weapon. It is both a weapon and a tool that is being used professionally by these people. And it's so crazy because you'll be like, hey, you're literally using your race and sex to deflect any criticism. And they're like, well, you're just saying that because you hate me because I'm a woman and I'm black. And it's like, you just did it just now. No, I didn't. The only reason you'll be saying that is because I'm a woman and I'm black. Like you're literally doing it as we speak.
It's the same thing that was going on during the 2016 election, where any criticism of Hillary was, well, obviously you're a misogynist.
Yeah.
You know, and this is not a new tactic. You know, deflecting criticism by using ad hominem attacks against the critic that aren't necessarily applicable at all to what they're saying, and so you just dismiss them. It's just like, oh, you're nothing. You're a horrible person because you criticize me. It shows more of I mean, now it depends on the criticism. If somebody's actually saying something sexist or racist or whatever else, well, go for it. But any criticism, no, fuck you. Thank you, Dark Shade. Okay, then what about custard or eggnog, Monkey?
My food proclivities are going to make you rich tonight. Custard and eggnog are both good, as is cheese if you want to talk about culture. But when you use those cultures and turn it into yogurt, you've just created a crime against humanity. You're basically baby Hitler.
Oh, what do you think about penicillin, Monkey?
I keep my dick clean.
Okay. Moving on. Let's see. This one comes from Frosted Glass, who also sent us the Guardian story, but we'll move on to something else. Oh, hey, here we go. Something from the Mary Sue. Natalie Portman points out the bias in resistance to inclusion writers. Okay. Inclusion writers are nice in theory. Do you guys know what inclusion writers are?
No. Do I want to?
So, and I'm sure the story will give more detail, but this is my understanding. It's basically part of a actor's contract, let's say. It could be anybody's contract, but specifically an actor's contract when doing a movie that says, I won't work on this movie unless these demands are met. An inclusion writer saying X number of whatever will be demographic of blah or whatever, or else I'm not going to do the movie. You know, it's a demand for people to hire people on the basis of race or gender or orientation or whatever combination thereof. Excuse me. Excuse me a second, guys.
Sounds fucking stupid to me.
I'm losing my voice or what, but anyway. Inclusion writers are nice in theory, but listening to Natalie Portman talk about them makes one thing very clear. The system is a lot more messed up than people realize, and an inclusion writer may not be the only thing that can fix it. The common argument against them is that you should hire based on talent, not gender, race, sexuality, or any other factor. But the problem with that mindset is that there is a systemic belief that the talent of women and people of color is inherently less than that of white men.
Yes, and that is held specifically and exclusively by us. We just put it on other people. Don't forget to add that.
Talking with Deadline, Portman pointed out why it is both important to have inclusion writers and why Hollywood is still reluctant to the change it desperately needs. Okay, before we get into her quote, an inclusion writer is telling a studio that they have to violate employment law. I mean, I don't know any other way to look at it. Now, obviously, show business and acting and other things, along with like modeling, it's one of those industries where the imperative to hire people on the basis of elements that don't necessarily involve pure merit is kind of fuzzy. Because again, if you're going to make a historical movie about Martin Luther King Jr., it's not against the law, and no one would probably go against a studio for doing so, for putting out a call to hire a black actor to play Martin Luther King Jr. You know, it's one of the few areas in our world where hiring people on those elements is not a violation of the law or an undue form of discrimination. All the same, telling a company that, no, whatever other considerations there may be, you first and foremost have to hire people on these bases, regardless of their other merits. That's where it gets a little dicey in my mind. But anyway, quote, there is a resistance because I think a lot of people are making the argument that you're hiring someone for their talent, not for their gender. It goes to show that we have so much bias in not recognizing talent and allowing it to express itself, unquote. No. The argument is you're hiring someone. Talent is a secondary consideration. The whole idea of an inclusion writer is that talent is secondary to fulfilling those demographic requirements that you've demanded of the studio.
But isn't it interesting that all of their ideological tactics that they're using right now, they always fall into place so perfectly, right? There's just like, you're saying that we're not hiring these people based on talent. Because this person who we brought on, who's black, that we hired because they're black, objectively has no talent. But now our deflection of that is you just don't recognize that they have talent because they're black. And it's like, no, I just realized that when I heard them speak that they did horribly. And they're like, no. You're blind to it. Not only can you not, hire people that you think are talented, but you can't even recognize what black talent looks like.
Well, here's where Mary Sue is reading people's minds. The problem is that the quote-unquote talent people are seeing is inextricably linked to an internalized bias in those doing the hiring. If any person from a marginalized community wants a job, they're scrutinized in a way that their white male counterparts aren't, because our culture is still inherently unbalanced in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Natalie Portman's second quote, and then I'll stop and move on to something else. Quote, of course, no one wants to get a job because of their marginalization.
Yes, they do.
You want to get a job because of your talent. But there are so many who don't get the opportunity since they are marginalized, and there are those who actually appreciate others' values, talent, and voices, unquote.
Well, prove they're being marginalized because of their fucking color rather than their lack of fucking talent.
They don't
you
have
can't
to.
do it. It's fuck off.
If they had the talent, would you need to force the studios to hire them? And when somebody comes into a production and they know that they're there because of an inclusion writer, that tells them that the first thing they looked at before hiring them wasn't their talent, wasn't their experience, wasn't their CV. It was, do they fit this demographic? Yes or no? Because otherwise you wouldn't have gotten the job anyway.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of talented people who never get a job in an industry where their talent could be put to the best use. I think of somebody like Grizz, those pictures that he made for us, Grizella, he should be drawing for comic books.
Yes.
And I see a whole lot of comics where I'm like, who the fuck drew this? That's horrible. Sometimes, yes, you have to know somebody. Things have to line up just right for you. Sure, there's a lot of people out there who are never going to excel where they probably would be the best. And it has nothing to do with their fucking race or sex. It's just that's how life fucking works sometimes.
Right.
You know how many artists became famous after they died?
Right, exactly.
It's like they whiled away their entire life. Like H.P. Lovecraft died in poverty, right? I mean, he wrote some weird stories and stuff, but now he's famous. He was a talented guy. He got mild recognition from people, especially his peers. But yeah, he died in poverty, was basically nameless until his stuff started promulgating 20, 30, 40 years later. Talent does not guarantee success.
Yep.
But certainly all these other elements that have nothing to do with talent, I would hope, shouldn't guarantee success.
The part that's annoying the fuck out of me though is it's just like, you don't understand your own metric of what you think talent is. If you're not impressed by something, it's not because it wasn't impressive. It's because you're white and you don't understand what impressive things look like that aren't the same color as you are. Like that's the argument right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes no sense. And it's not even quantifiable. There's no way to prove that is the case, but they can just say it. And people are like, well, that makes sense. They're white. How would they know what black talented people look like? Because they're white. They have no reference. So they don't pick black people because they think like if you're going to be talented, you have to have this skin color while doing it, or else whatever you do just won't be talent. Like it won't be considered something that requires talent, which is fucking ridiculous. It's a ridiculous claim, but it's perfect for them because it can't be refuted, and it fits the narrative. So that fucking annoys me.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for all the stories. We're just about at the top of the hour, so it's now time for YouTube time. Satsu, what did you do today?
What did I do today? Fuck.
I don't know. That's why I asked you.
I'm so annoyed right now that like my mind just went blank. I didn't upload anything today. We do have a stream later. And I worked on something earlier, but I'm too annoyed to remember what it was. So you'll see it when it comes out.
So Monkey, just so you know, Crazilla says in the chat, Monkey, I'm starting to do comic books. I have a few out on Comic Central, and thank you for the compliment.
Good, bud. Your fucking art is amazing.
Tweet us links, yo, or put in the chat.
Yeah, drop that shit in there.
Yeah. Shill your stuff, yo. Monkey, what did you do today?
I did a monkey in the morning. We had a fairly decent conversation. It started out about yogurt because that shit's nasty, and I had to get that off my chest because
you have yogurt on your chest.
I didn't. If anybody tried to put that on my chest, I'd punch him right in the balls.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. Yeah. After that, I went to bed and I didn't get up until about 7. So I didn't sleep all through that. I woke up a lot of times to move and moan, but I stayed in bed today to try to give my body a rest, and I feel a little good right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you feel good. We don't hear that.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Real quick with YouTube time, we are doing a Lords of the Night, not Lords of the Night. God damn it!
Wow, you want to try that one again?
Yes, we are playing 7 Days to Die over on 2 cents plus. After this, we are giving away Galactic Civilization 1, 2, and 3 as a single bundle. So if you'd like a chance to win those 3 games, the older 2 are older, and the newer one is actually a really fun game if you like that kind of game. So come over and take a chance to win.
PewDiePie has surpassed YouTube gaming
as a whole.
As a whole.
Fuck.
Well, he said that shit as a joke in a video one time. That actually happened.
Yeah. So Social Blades reporting at least as of 3 hours ago, thereabouts. Might have changed, who knows? But PewDiePie today hit 81,297,215 subscribers, whereas YouTube Gaming had 81,297,212 subscribers.
You guys should go tell PewDiePie that he should watch 2 cents plus.
Thank you, Jenna P. Scribbles, others need setup, write, spell, gram help.
What?
Spelling, grammar help? Needs setup, writing, spelling, grammar help? Others need. I think I know what you're trying to say, but I don't know.
Real quick, Satsu, make sure you update your 7 Days to Die. The other version has gone stable.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Let's see. Well, I didn't have a chance to do a heck of a lot today because of work and a doctor's appointment that was rescheduled from last week, and I got to get through with now because of insurance things. But in an astonishingly short amount of time, Google has posted their next episode of their Engineering Everyday Equity series. And I watched it, and it's bizarre.
Oh.
It's bizarre for a couple of reasons. First off, it says absolutely nothing about anything productive from my perspective. Like, I keep waiting for them to say, okay, when it says Engineering Everyday, the first 2 episodes were basically like, how do we define our target user demographic? All right. And so, we want to take it from, well, I've got this theoretical app that will help college students go through the application process more easily to get into college. That's the app's idea, the overall idea. And then the expert said, well, hey, how about we make that an app that helps first-generation college students get through the college application process? So now you've just winnowed your target audience down from a lot of people to something very specific, which kind of defeats the purpose, you would think, of trying to get an app that services everybody, which is what they're talking about with inclusion. And then the next episode talked about the exact same thing. Like, how do we figure out our target audience? And then it was not about first-generation students. It was about what age demographic do we want to target? And first it was like, well, high school students. And they're like, well, we should probably try to aim for younger students so we prepare them for college. And then they're like, oh, well, I also want to include people who might be going back to college or something in an older demographic. So it's like, okay, so age is now irrelevant in your demographic user base. And now this episode, I don't know what it says, except that you have to find lots of different people to be your beta testers.
Which is true.
Which is absolutely true. But
irrelevant.
That's also, it's completely irrelevant to the idea of engineering everyday equity, except for the fact that, and the examples they bring up to try to illustrate how this is useful towards quote unquote equity make absolutely no sense to me. And I'm not a developer, I'm not an engineer, but from watching these videos, I wouldn't think these guys are engineers either, because at no point do they ever talk about anything technical. There's no engineering. There's no talking about how would you implement a UI for a blind person or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Which is what I'm waiting for, just abstractly. I'm not really, waiting with bated breath or anything. But the really bizarre thing about this particular video is that halfway through the video, they take clips of stuff that the guest speaker already said and link them together in rapid succession with no bookending intro or anything. Like they're trying to summarize what he said, but they just repeat it. It's really, really weird. And when I was watching the video, I was like, I could cut out that entire section because it's completely redundant and says nothing more than what was already said. What? But anyway, I've kind of given away the whole project if I actually made a video on this. I'm actually kind of hesitant to make a video on it because I don't know that there's anything to say other than blah every 5 seconds, which might be entertaining to a certain degree. But
you know what, Scribe, you could turn it into a lesson in how to set up something that makes you feel like you accomplished something, but at the end you accomplish nothing. I
guess I just. Because I mean, I look at these things and I think, okay, these people, these are intelligent people. They're technically minded people. I work with technically minded people all the time, and they're a different breed. If a developer doesn't operate the same as a customer service person, you kind of see that dynamic sort of talked about in like Office Space or something. I can't count how many times I've not being a particularly technically minded person myself, talking to one of our developers, trying to figure out a problem, and then stating something that just seems patently obvious to me, but to them it's like this great revelation because they're so focused on like the one, not to make it too stereotypical, but the ones and zeros of everything, that they can't quite think abstractly in a way, And so when I watch these guys, I'm like, okay, these guys, I mean, they're executives at Google. They've got these jobs. They do this stuff. They got to be technically minded, but they're talking nonsense. I don't get it. Unless Google just employs people who talk nonsense. I don't know.
They do.
So anyway, I may do a video on that now that I've basically written a script live for the fucking thing. Other than that, though, I don't have any other projects I'm working on right now. But I will. Tonight, I will start watching season 2 of The Punisher. I hope to binge through it by the end of the weekend. And thereafter, I will do at some point, shortly thereafter, a live stream review of season 2 of The Punisher, which will likely be the last season of The Punisher on Netflix, given the pattern of the other shows being canceled up to this point. So for those of you that liked my first Punisher review, which that's one of my most watched videos, actually. I will have a second one out within a few days at the very most. So there you go. That's all my stuff. Moving on to internet fucketry. I want to double check and make sure I didn't miss Jenna P clarifying what she said, because I don't want to leave that stuff behind. Let's see. Jenna P says new device, need to set it up for correcting Jenny's or just Jen writing.
Oh, no clue.
Scribbles, others. Okay.
I want to jump in real quick. I don't have so much fuck. Like I said, I was sleeping all day. But about Google, the head of Google went and testified before Congress.
Okay. And
during his testimony before Congress, he was asked, is there any human interaction into your algorithms? Anything that you guys specifically will like block? And what they were getting at is, do you guys in any way keep conservative commentary out of circulation?
Right.
And he said, no, we do not. There's no human hands involved in this. Well, it came out earlier this week that they have blacklisted words.
Right. Yeah.
So when it sounds like I forget what you just said, but like people at Google are morons or idiots or something like that.
No, they just talk nonsense.
Yes, talk nonsense. That's what they do. They absolutely do, and all the way up to the top. I forget his name, Sadur. I forget his fucking name. But yeah, all the way to the top. I mean, this is a man who basically went and lied in front of Congress, which I'm curious to see what Congress is going to do about that. I bet nothing, because hands have changed and everything. But
yeah, no, I just listening to these experts talking about. I mean, it's like they just give new phrases to old concepts. They say, we're going to have a lightning talk.
Oh,
right. And so I listen, like, okay, what's a lightning talk? And I listened to this is the second video I did, and she's describing it, and I'm like, oh, you mean brainstorming? That's all it was. It was just like, let's bounce ideas off each other. Lightning instead of storm. Like, okay, great.
That's such a corporate thing to do.
I know, and I was just like, okay. And I was waiting. I don't know if this is similar to my disappointment with the media, but I'd like to think that the people who develop the apps and the technology and everything else, when they're talking about what they're passionate about, even if I don't agree with them on it, this is the thing that I was looking for when I was watching these things, because obviously these guys, especially Anthony Mays, who puts on the show, he's very, very concerned about making products that fit as many people's needs as possible. Now, as a fundamental sort of pie in the sky concept, I don't have any problem with that, because I mean, obviously, if you're making a product, you want to get as wide an audience for that product as possible to make a profit and have it be popular. You can't please all the people all the time, but that's the part they keep getting wrong in these videos. They keep trying to find a way to make everybody want to use this thing, but at the same time they have to be mindful of inclusion and diversity by targeting very specific demographics to fit that requirement, which doesn't. These things cannot exist in the same space. Either you're trying to make something with large appeal, or you're trying to make a niche product. Can't do both at the same time. It just
this is true.
Doesn't operate that way.
Do you think it's a result of their new hiring incentives? Like over the past couple of years, their incentives have been widening the scope of what being proficient in that field means. So, we have to look at engineering differently. It's not only about, being smart and being able to do stuff like that. We have to also bring, diversity, intersectionality, and all that type of stuff into it. To hone ourselves and to better ourselves. So you think that's a combination of these people who literally aren't fit to be engineers, but they say really nice things that people like to hear. So they're like, okay, well,
I imagine this, and this is just me theorizing here, but I got to imagine that at the core of the Google philosophy is their original product, a search bar. I mean, the most ubiquitous, widely used thing ever. It's just a plain. I mean, when Google came out, it was the plainest thing ever. It was a plain page and a search bar. That's it, right? You can't get much more utilitarian than that. And it was serviceable to everybody. As long as you could type or put words into a screen, you could use this product, which means that everybody could use it, right? So at the core of the Google philosophy in making products, I assume that's what is sort of like the starting point. How can I make the next search bar? How can I make the next thing that is going to be vital and useful to everyone? I think that's part of it. But then you add in this imperative to make it about, oh, we have to target demographics. We have to make it open to everybody and service everybody. And once you get into things like making an app for college applications, or you make an app for, I don't know, finding your local hair salon or something, I fuck if I know. But because a search bar is about as broad-based a tool as you can think of when it comes to internet searching, right? Just a search bar. When you get down to the nitty-gritty stuff like very specific services like college or cab companies or restaurants or something, then they get into this like nitty gritty of like, yeah, but how can we make sure that anybody who uses this doesn't feel offended? Like when they released their medical application several years ago, something they didn't have in the first round of it was, oh, there's nothing here for women to track their menstrual cycles, so now it's a sexist app. And I'm like, have you guys ever been through a development process? You don't get everything in on the first rev.
Well, you have to, because the culture they built around there. If they find anything exclusionary, it has to be malicious by default.
Yeah, and I think that's also what's driving this fear of not having all the answers ready on the first draft, is that anything that you might leave out becomes a weakness that can be exploited by a critic as being, oh, this is exclusionary of X demographic. So they're trying to avoid being criticized, I think. I don't know. It's this weird combination of trying to make a product that services the largest amount of people, trying to avoid being criticized for leaving anyone out, and then getting all caught up in such minute details of trying to work in stuff that'll please everybody. It's just insanity. I don't understand how they operate as a company on the lower levels of things anymore, really, if this is how it goes. So anyway, that's my long soliloquy on that, which basically takes us halfway through the deep topic time. Did you have any internet puppetry, Satsu, or Monkey, or anything? Because that was...
I had just one real quick one.
We got time.
Brian Krasenstein.
Uh-oh.
In regards to the whole BuzzFeed thing, he wrote... the most tragic thing about this BuzzFeed mess. Oh, I can't. That's not the right voice for him. The most tragic thing about this BuzzFeed mess is that the right and the president will use this as evidence that the left and the news media is fake, when it's likely a small detail within the report that was inaccurate. Hannity and Trump are already having a field day. You think that's the tragedy? It's not that there's fake news. I mean, Mueller didn't come. They actually said BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterizations of the document and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. The statements and the documents, the way you're talking about them, are not right. That is more than just, oops, we used the wrong adjective. Fuck off, Brian, you little bitch.
Also, as this article stated, the authors of the report wouldn't give specifics on whether or not they'd even seen the documents they quote as existing to back up their claims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. The Mueller team might be saying in the abstract, you know, they got 3 words wrong in this report, so it's not accurate. But like you said earlier, for them to come out and make a public statement at all about this, it doesn't sound like it's a minor detail off if they were going to do that. It sounds like something is dramatically not correct about what they're claiming to be true. Now, we don't know what it is or to what degree. Presumably, we'll find out at some point when this thing finally wraps up in 2027. But, you know, Krasensteins.
They're fucking morons. Anyway, sorry, that's all I had.
Satsu?
No, I didn't really get anything or see anything fucketry worthy today. Just some of the same old shit. I know. Has BuzzFeed made like actually came out and made a correction or said anything in response to this at all?
No, the last I read was that despite the Mueller rebuttal, BuzzFeed stands by its reporting. That's the only statement I've heard regarding BuzzFeed's response to it.
Yeah, 2 hours ago they were saying they were confident in the accuracy of their reporting.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm interested to see how that'll play out.
Well, let's see. And just because we're on deep topic time, technically, we'll muse about it for a second. Let's say that the whole BuzzFeed report turns out to be absolute garbage. Mm-hmm. I know that is a real stretch of the imagination, but let's say that's the case. Do you think that kind of embarrassment?
Nope.
Satsu already knows what I'm saying.
Nope.
You think that kind of an embarrassment will deter the news outlets from using that kind of shit in the future and not corroborate? Yeah, and I know. I know. It's again, it's my hopeful cynicism. What can I tell you?
They got a day of being able to say, "Oh, we got the smoking gun," and as you pointed out, Scribe, we've had that smoking gun. This has got to be the fourth one.
Well, I'll tell you the reason why. Because of the tweet that Monkey just read. Because their interpretation wasn't, wow, our media is telling us things that aren't necessarily true. It was, oh, damn. Unfortunately, they got caught lying. So now Trump has some ammo. Like that's going to be the reaction.
I got to read you something. Hey, let me get that.
Oh, real quick. Thank you, Frosted Glass. BuzzFeed. Who do you believe, me or your own eyes? Yeah, exactly.
Here's one of the tweets right underneath Krasenstein's. It says, well, pretty much everyone said if the report is true. Only BuzzFeed comes out of this dirty. No. You don't get to separate yourself like that. If you ran with this as news, then you're just as dirty as anyone else because you didn't corroborate it yourself.
Yeah, and imagine if you had been the news outlet that had actually done the due diligence to try to corroborate BuzzFeed's story, and you found out it was all nonsense. You'd have a story right there. Or if you were the news outlet to corroborate it, well, that would just make it that much bigger a story. But no, they didn't bother to roll the dice either direction and just relay it without doing any work.
That's because that first thing that you said isn't on the table. It was wishful thinking. They hoped it was true and they wanted it to be true really bad. If they would have corroborated and found out that it wasn't, then they wouldn't have talked about it at all. Like they would have just ignored it and pretended like, okay, well, we don't want to make it seem like we're lying because that was the thing that the dude said before. Unfortunately, this is going to give Trump ammo and they would never do that.
I know I'm early for chat time, but P-Dog says Ted Lieu wanted to impeach Trump based on the BuzzFeed story. Yeah, there's a lot of lawmakers were asked about this story, and I'm not sure how many of them couched their response well if it turns out to be true. But yeah, Ted Lieu was one of the ones that said, if this shows I think if was in his response. Yeah, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. So he did couch it a little bit, which is only proper. But if this turns out to be true, then he should be impeached.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I expect too much. I expect too much from the supposedly more legitimate media outlets than I should these days.
No, that's the problem right there, Scribe. You know what? BuzzFeed running with an article that's iffy, fine. They've done that before. They're basically a rag. CNN running an article where they actually say we haven't corroborated any of this. This is fucking CNN.
Yeah.
Why weren't you on the phone? Why did the Mueller team have to come out themselves and issue a statement instead of issuing that statement to CNN?
Real quick, thank you, Circus Zero. Ripley's Believe It or Not is more credible than BuzzFeed.
It is.
Yeah. Now, when CNN quotes or relays a story from the Washington Post or the New York Times or something, it's lazy. It's certainly lazy, but it's not unheard of, because if somebody scoops you and it's the only source and they've checked it out and everything else, well, you have to give credit where credit's due. Harvey Weinstein was exposed in a New York Times story, posted da-da-da-da. Okay. Sometimes the newspaper does become news in and of itself. But something like this where, the media has been giving us false positives over and over and over again. Something like this just shows you don't care. When Chris Cillizza's hypothetical speculation tirade is the top story on CNN.com, and I'm not kidding, guys. This morning, his little analysis, quote unquote, was the headline top story on their website. If you're going to go so far as to just be a rebranding information uncorroborated and call it journalism on your front page, or under the guise of journalism, you're not a journalistic entity anymore. I mean, and I know this has probably been true for a long time now, but CNN is officially not a journalistic entity anymore.
No, they're not.
They don't care about actually doing any legwork. They don't have any integrity when it comes to vetting their sources or corroborating information. A real journalistic site would have taken Buzzfeed's story and reverse engineered it to try to either confirm or invalidate it to one degree or another, and then report what they found. That's what a real journalistic entity would have done.
Oh, Grouchy Gamer in chat says, I figure Mueller's covering his ass because there's nothing to the final report. I can't think of a time that his team has come out and said, no, this isn't true about something. And I have a feeling that the reports that we've heard about this up until the BuzzFeed article have all said Cohen did this to help the president. It was specifically to help the president. Right. But it's never been said that the president told him to do it. And those are two different things. If Cohen did it on his own volition, like, you know what, this will help the president if such and such happened. Because we just had, what was it, yesterday, I think it was, where it was reported that Cohen had paid a firm to change or to sway online polls. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was the other thing that kind of got swept under the rug with this BuzzFeed thing, is that the charge earlier this morning, and I don't know what happened to it, is that Trump had Cohen manipulate polling data to show Trump in favor of whatever. Except
they never actually said Trump told him to do it.
That's always been sort of the firewall with all of his accusations. To the best of my knowledge, and again, guys, who knows what Mueller's going to reveal, whatever, but all of these things that people did that either are or could be considered crimes, to this point, they haven't drawn a clear line of evidence that says Trump told this person to do this.
Yes, exactly.
For all we know, and so far as we've been shown so far, it's entirely possible that everybody was working independently or trying to be sycophants and please the boss under what they assumed he would want to have happen, or just operating on their whatever, until they can draw a line, a sort of a chain of custody of direction and effect between Trump and one of his associates. They got nothing, you know. And maybe Trump was just cagey enough to do what the mob boss in Goodfellas was. He'd never talk on the phone about so important things. He'd always say it in person, make sure there's nothing recorded, and then walk out of the room or whatever. I don't know. But to this point, they haven't actually shown that it was at the direction of Trump or that he knew about it or whatever else.
Well, see, that's where the whole BuzzFeed, because with that article on changing online polls, the only reason the changing the online polls would be a thing is because that would be a donation in kind. Mm-hmm. So that's campaign finance violation. Right. There's a difference from, say, who was his chief of staff? I don't even remember.
Was that Manafort?
It could be. Maybe Manafort said, "Hey, we need better polls. We need to do something about these online polls. Trump is not doing well in them. Make something happen to make that better." And then Cohen goes, I know this polling or this firm that can help sway polls, and he goes and does that. That's Manafort's not guilty in that instance. Trump's not guilty in that instance. That's all Cohen. There's ways that it can be done at the direction, or it was done. He was directed to do this for the president. That is not the president telling him to do it.
Thank you, Cryptic. When Ronan Farrow says he wouldn't have run the story due to the sources being sketchy, you got a problem, BuzzFeed. This guy is fake news himself.
Right.
And thank you, Lawyer Dog. Theory: Mueller threw BuzzFeed under the bus, leaked a fake story, then waited until news dump Friday to deny. Damage done to both Trump and BuzzFeed.
Dude, that would be crazy.
Except this makes Trump look better because it's like, oh, there's a lie about Trump. Can we trust any of these anonymous sources?
Right. Yeah. This undermines not only BuzzFeed, but it also undermines everybody who rebroadcast BuzzFeed.
Yep.
As being, too quick on the draw, which again isn't necessarily new, but I don't know what four-dimensional chess might be played there, but BuzzFeed has got to do a follow-up to this where they actually show the documents or bring forward someone's name who can be verified and vetted as actually having information about this. But of course, given our landscape, is anybody going to come out of their anonymity under something like this, given all of the stakes? Probably not. If there was anybody to begin with.
Yeah, BuzzFeed, I mean, their main source is 2 anonymous law enforcement agents familiar with the matter.
Right, familiar with the matter, which could mean anything, and law enforcement could mean anything. It could be 2 state troopers who walked past Mueller in the hallway or something,
Mm-hmm. And there's no way to do this without getting those 2 guys in a lot of trouble if they exist.
What needs to happen, basically, if BuzzFeed wants to redeem itself, they have to have sort of an Adlai Stevenson moment where they bring out the aerial photographs of the missiles in Cuba to show to the Russian ambassador that, no, we actually have the evidence here to show that you don't know what you're talking, or that you're lying to us. I mean, the only hope that I have for actual journalism is probably the independent media, is probably the smaller outlets now that have nothing to lose from trying to do actual journalism, rather than having to kowtow to the bigwigs and the funders and the advertisers and everything. So even though BuzzFeed isn't exactly a small organization, if they actually did real journalism here, if they actually found something out that nobody else did, great. But you're not looking good when you're putting out stuff that people keep refuting.
And here's the thing, BuzzFeed, again, they're a joke. But this has just come out. CNN and MSNBC collectively used the word impeach nearly 200 times on Friday before the special counsel's office disputed the BuzzFeed report. Yeah. The ones who should be, and look, BuzzFeed, yes, they need to find a way to. They don't even need to find a way. These are the same assholes who still have that. The statistic that there's a woman raped every 6 seconds up on their fucking site.
Oh, right, yeah.
They've never taken that down. These are the same assholes who ran with the Steele dossier, even though most people are like, at least half of this is verified false. BuzzFeed doesn't have anything to lose here. CNN and like MSNBC, these are considered news sources. Yeah. And for fuck's sake, you guys need to do something to redeem yourselves. And they're not going to, but they're the ones who should be worried about how they look. I need to step away. I'll be
okay. Well, with all that, guys, we're going to start chat time a little early. So if you have questions, comments, conspiracy theories, complaints, ideas about what the next big smoking gun will be in the Trump-Russia story, put them in the chat now. If you have questions for us directly, please put plenty of chat marks after them. And if you have statements for us to consider, please put plenty of statement marks after those. And also, one last plug from Grisella, his DeviantArt page. It has the Lords of the Night comic book covers as well as Irate Bears. Link is in the chat. Scroll up a little bit if you're watching this in the future, and you'll find it there. So let's see. Do we have any questions so far? No. Let's see. Faithless says, I wonder what the current confidence in the media percentage is at. Oh, I don't know. I'm sure there's a poll out there somewhere. It's probably not too great, but who knows? I don't know. So what you guys are playing 7 Days to Die again tonight? What games are you handing out?
I think he said Galactic Civ, 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3 games to one person, or like separately?
Yeah, we're giving them away as a bundle. Because I was thinking of giving them away separately, but that would make sense. Like, you get 1, you get 2, and then you get 3. It's like, well, it doesn't seem to make any sense. So,
Serenity Lotus asks, Unbreakable or The Sixth Sense? Between the two, I'd probably go Unbreakable. I think that has a much builds a much larger universe and is much more interesting story overall, character study than Sixth Sense. Besides which, once you know the twist in The Sixth Sense, the whole movie is blah. Once you know the twist in Unbreakable, it just adds to the whole mythos of the thing. Let's see. Backscan says, how long do you think the government shutdown will continue? Well, Trump put out a tweet today saying he has some big announcement regarding the border security and humanitarian crisis that he's going to be doing tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Now, I don't know if that means he's going to declare the emergency that he was talking about before and go around Congress, but something's going to happen tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, so keep an eye on that. It might be over tomorrow if he decides to declare an emergency and take emergency funds and do it and just get around Congress, and then the shutdown will end. We'll see. Adam Mangold says, have you seen 13 Hours, guys? 13 Hours. Remind me what 13 Hours, 2016. During an attack on a U.S. compound in Libya, security team struggles to make sense of the cast. I have not seen 13 Hours. So, I don't know. Have you guys seen the movie 13 Hours?
I have not. You know what I did see?
What?
The first episode of The Shield.
Oh, well, shit, dude. Why don't you say something? We could talk about this.
I told you I was going to watch it.
Why no? But you just said something earlier during Deep Topic time. We can talk about it.
I'm just telling you I watched it.
Give me your brief reaction.
Good show. Whoever was doing the camera needs to be punched in the face. And the end of it, I was like, "Ooh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah." Just wait.
Yeah. And the camera. And this was something that happened a lot back at that time on serious drama shows. They would spin the camera fucking constantly. Yeah,
that was Clark Johnson, the guy who directed that episode. He was there's a lot of crossover between the show Homicide and The Shield. There's a lot of actors, and Clark Johnson, who played Meldrick, he was a director on several episodes in The Shield, and he did the very first one. And the director's commentary, or the cast commentary on that episode, they talk about his direction style. And at the very beginning of the show, they're at this park or whatever, and he tells the cinematographer, where he says, "Hey, you see that dog?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Shoot the dog." And everybody heard him say, "Shoot the dog." They're like, "What?" And so but they did that weird, especially in the park at that beginning part where they're kind of spinning around and looking at everything and sort of establishing the
it made me dizzy.
Yeah, that kind of work tones down precipitously as the season and the series goes on. There's still a lot of action shots and stuff, but there's not as much of that, thankfully.
Yeah, the rest of it was fine. There's just 2 or 3 shots where they spin like that. I just wanted to kick somebody in the dick. Real quick, I just put the link to the comic that Grizilla's involved in back in the chat. He's put it a couple of times. I tweeted it out. Check it out, guys. His drawing is just so amazing.
Let's see. Pirates Creed asks, do you think the left would defend AOC being put in charge of a nuclear reactor? Yes.
No.
Even the left is not that dumb?
No, they'd be like, no, she's busy right now. Did you see that video of her trying to track down Mitch McConnell?
No.
Okay, so she's going to go yell at Mitch McConnell, right?
Uh-huh.
And she's just running through these halls. She got a camera crew with her. And I went over here to find him. I went over here to find. She was in the wrong goddamn building.
Well, there's only 2 chambers of Congress.
She's in the wrong fucking building bitching that Mitch McConnell wasn't there. Oh, so funny.
The Frosted Glass says, if you were Trump, what would be your next prank on Pelosi? It would depend on on Pelosi's next move. If Pelosi makes the next move, then he has to respond. I don't think Trump's going to do something like that again unless Pelosi tries to pull one on him.
Yeah. That was a direct response to what she did.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody on Facebook about that before because most of the people I saw who are anti-Trump who brought it up, they were talking about this incident like Trump just woke up one morning and was just like, I'm about to do something fucked up to this person. No motivation, no nothing. They're like, what a childish asshole. Why would he do that? Something like that. This is why people don't like him. Now, you do know that this was retaliation. It's still childish, but
it was a childish reaction to a childish move.
Yeah. I'm like, he didn't just pull this out of his ass. And they're like, he still should be more responsible. I'm like, so regardless, no matter what happens, even if he's retaliating, it's still his fault.
Yep.
Celtic Mandalore says, do y'all think we, the damn politicians, should lose their government income with the government being shut down? Yeah, I think since the House and the Senate, collectively are responsible for the budget and everything else, if the government shuts down, they should be the ones that lose their pay until they fix it. I still don't understand why the regular old workers get fucked over while the politicians can still fly to Afghanistan or go off on their retreats or whatever the hell else it is. They should be the ones who are suffering so that they have to hunker down and do their jobs. That's what I would think.
Let me give you an alternate plan.
Okay.
Most of the people in Congress don't need their paycheck. The majority of them are independently wealthy anyway. What's that? I'm sorry.
Except for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Sure. There's a few that it would hurt. But in fairness to her, she had no part in this. But okay, let's say we do that. We can do that fine. But that's not where you really need to do it. Take away their staff funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Take away their staff funding, and you will see these motherfuckers find a way to get everything back working.
Jenna says, can someone please help me figure out my typing on YouTube and everything one would use to write and have people at least be able to read my post from yesterday? Well, I mean, Jenna, you and I have talked offline for quite a while. And I've said this before. Your writing, reading comprehension, whole 9 yards compared to when we first started talking is light years ahead. So I think I can't, obviously I can't see you. I'm not quite that omniscient, but maybe just slow down and double check your work before you hit enter is always what I mean. Like I get twitchy about Twitter. I get twitchy about Twitter because it's so instantaneous and there's no edit button. And of course, being an English major, I get very cagey about putting stuff out that I can't revise very easily. So just look over your work before you hit send, I guess, is the only thing I could advise to do otherwise. Because, a spelling thing is, it may check your spelling, it may check some grammar points, but ultimately it's going to be you having to sort of really look at what you're writing and put it out there. Let's see. Cody Fry says, what is the best comedy movie in our opinion? Oh, God. I know Monkey's answer is probably something like Blazing Saddles.
I love Blazing Saddles, but the end of it kind of ruins that.
Airplane.
Airplane, yeah.
Airplane, yeah. I think Airplane. Did you see that video I sent you, Monkey? About
I did. I watched it. That is awesome. That is amazing.
Isn't that interesting? It's like they didn't change any dialogue for these scenes, but because they played it up so straight with the hammy music in the background, it's actually hilarious because it's so melodramatic.
That's one of the reasons I love the original Scary Movie. Scary Movie is based mostly on Scream.
Yeah.
And they actually lift dialogue straight from it.
Yes.
And the difference is how they play it up, and they learned the lesson of Airplane, and yeah, it was awesome to see that.
And now my chat jumps. Sorry, guys. Pyrus Creed says, "Are you excited for Grand Monkey tomorrow?"
I am. I'm just not positive she's coming.
Oh. Well, if she does, I'm gonna be sorry. I'll miss it. I'll be out running around with my let's see, my sister and my mother's visiting from out of town, and my sister's friend. We're all going to go out to breakfast and hang out for a bit. So, let's see. Serenity Low says Mad Men, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, The Shield, and Better Call Saul in order of best to worst. Shield's the best. The Sopranos underneath that. Breaking Bad underneath. Well, Breaking Bad, The Sopranos. That's a tough one.
Breaking Bad's better.
Breaking Bad, yeah. So Shield, Breaking Bad, Sopranos, Mad Men, Better Call Saul. That's fine.
I've never seen Mad Men, but with that list, I would go. And again, The Shield, I've only seen one episode, so I can't do that. It would be Breaking Bad, Sopranos, and then Better Call Saul. I don't think Better Call Saul is all that good, and I know that's going to get me in trouble, but it's really not that good. I
like it as its own thing. It's kind of a tangent to Breaking Bad. It's not as good as Breaking Bad because it's much more. It's not as intense in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting how they have created this prequel series that explains a lot of things, and it doesn't seem disruptive to anything in the universe of Breaking Bad.
Well, that's part of the problem with Better Call Saul is that it's a prequel. So there are certain people that you care about, you know they're going to live. You can never put the main character in mortal danger because we know he's going to survive.
Right.
Same with Mike. He's never going to be in mortal danger because we know he survived. So I would have preferred a follow-up rather than and I know that means Mike's couldn't be there or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, they killed their own drama.
Some of it. I mean, like what happens to Saul's love interest, or these other things, or how does this develop to the point where he meets Walter White in this? So there's a little bit, but it's sort of like the prequel movies in Star Wars. It's kind of like, well, we know where this ends up, so the only mystery is how all this extra stuff is shed away before we get there, basically. Let's see. Frosted Glass, best twist ending in any movie.
Oh.
Well, I think even though it's too well known now, I think the biggest twist ever was The Empire Strikes Back.
If you're talking about the most well known, sure. But what's that black and white movie you had me watch? The noir one?
Memento?
Yes, Memento. I would say that.
Memento's a really great movie.
When I saw the end of that, I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan's earlier stuff. If you want to see an even earlier Christopher Nolan movie that's really good, find Following. It's all black and white and British. It's much more noir, much more quiet, but really kind of dark. I don't recall there's a twist in there so much, but it's really good. As far as Usual Suspects, the Scott Wilson, that is one of the most famous twists.
Sure.
And it does. I mean, the only thing without giving it away, the only thing I don't like about that twist is it makes the entire movie irrelevant. Yep. That's one of the things. It's sort of like a love-hate relationship with that movie, because once I saw it the first time, I can never watch this again because it's like, Satsu, I know you don't watch any movies, but do you have any ideas?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, William Savage. Scribe, I love Castle. Punisher season 2 is solid. If you are up for Ennis, don't be an elitist Dawn. Okay, I like Garth Ennis's work on the Punisher in a lot of situations. Not all of it, but most of it. I'll wait and see. I'm keeping an open mind because, man, I was really disappointed by season 1. As I've talked about on several occasions. There were some highlights, but I was really disappointed where it goes. The trailer for season 2 didn't give me a whole lot of confidence it's going to be any better. But again, I'll be going into it, my head held high and my hopes just as much, and we'll see how badly or well I am taken with it. We'll see. Let's see. Ebony says, Satsu, you've seen any new anime that premiered this year?
I've saw quite a few of them, and about maybe 2 or 3 of them actually crept up on my favorite list. Like
absolutely bumped some down in my top 10, which I was surprised by. 2018 was a fucking excellent. Well, you mean this year specifically? I thought we were still talking about 2018. I've seen 2 of them that have aired this year, and so far they're okay. I can't make any real judgments on them because there's only like 2 episodes left, or 2 episodes out.
Cynical Lindsay says, if you're a fan of the zombie subgenre, what is your favorite zombie-related IP, movie, book, etc.? I'm not a super fan of zombie stuff just because it's, there's only so many different ways you can tell a zombie story. And Night of the Living Dead series pretty much did it all the way around. The only thing I'd say otherwise is the original World War Z book and the Zombie Survival Guide, also by Max Brooks. Those 2 things by themselves, I think, are some of the best zombie material out there, aside from the Romero trilogy. Any opinions over?
I like zombie things when it's me and Satsu playing a game. Other than that, I generally don't watch or partake.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What's your favorite zombie-related IP, movie, book, etc.?
I had a lot of fun and I fangirled quite a bit for God damn it, Dead Rising. Dead Rising was one of those games that I really, really, really enjoyed because it took all the restrictions out of zombie games, you know what I mean? And it was like a playground, and it had this humorous element, but it was still creepy as shit. So I really appreciate the Dead Rising series, even though it kind of devolved into really stupid and just kind of asinine crap. But the bosses and stuff in those games and just the amount of freedom that you had in them really spoke to me. So I like those.
Backscan says, who's your favorite video game villain? I got 2 answers to that. One is Revan. And second is Voss from Far Cry 3. I only wish that the final quote unquote fight with Voss wasn't a QuickTime event, and that he was in the game more than he was. But otherwise, the best developed bad guy other than Revan was probably Voss.
The slutty vampire in Bloodlines.
Oh, Therese Vorman.
Yes, her.
Oh yeah.
She was great.
Well, she wasn't really I guess she's kind of a villain.
Kind of a villain.
Sort of. Yeah, she's an antagonist at one point.
She's not like the final boss or anything, but she's definitely horrible. And John in Far Cry 5. None of the others, just John, because he was fucking creepy.
Satsu?
I'd probably have to say Voss and Handsome Jack from Borderlands. Borderlands 2, Handsome Jack. That is one of my favorite villains of all time.
William Savage, thank you. Bro, I get it. I don't know what you get. Unless that's another like South Park reference or something.
Not as far as I know.
Okay. Adabisi says, what's the 2018 anime I should watch? That's a Satsu question for sure.
What was that? I'm sorry.
What's the 2018 anime I should watch?
That time I got reincarnated as a slime. It sounds ridiculous, but it is the best anime that's come out in quite a while. It's really fucking good, actually. Shockingly good. I was surprised. I thought it was just going to be another isekai show, which is, for the people who don't know, other world shows, like transported to another world. That's what an isekai anime is. And there have been a lot coming out, and they're kind of samey. Like, a lot of them have like the same story. The character's a loser in the real world and gets to transfer it over to this other world, and now he's all super powerful and all the girls like him. But this is they changed up the formula quite a bit, and it's really good. So check that shit out, if nothing else. I have a few others, but
all right. Frosted Glass says, if you had to do a gender or race flipped remake of any movie, what would it be?
Trading Places.
Do
a race flip of Trading Places in the modern world. I think that'd be awesome.
The Toy.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Now, for gender switch, God, I don't know. Like a word. Let's see.
Gender switch. I would want Brokeback Mountain, so I can watch lesbians instead of gay men.
Oh, there you go. Have they done a Magnificent Seven female version at all?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. If, yeah, I don't know. Oh, how about a female? And not that they just took the. Well, I guess that was a remake. So I don't know. A female Scarface.
Yeah, she'd just be a bitch.
Undercover sister.
There you go. There you go. Genevieve says, Scribbles, say hi to Mama Scribbles and Sis Scribe from the chat fam. I will. Yeah, I'll let everybody know. And I've actually been talking to my sister about maybe coming on sometime, but maybe we'll see. I don't know. She's kind of cagey about this stuff, and I also have to like say, okay, and remember, don't use any real names. But no, she's been thinking about doing her own YouTube stuff on a completely separate subject and other things, and she's already sort of she does stand-up comedy sort of as a hobby kind of thing. She's already got a name out there, sort of. So we'll see.
Lindsay asked us what our favorite movie in the Star Wars favorite Star Wars film is.
Oh,
I say that can't be a real question, Lindsay.
Yeah, that's
if anybody answers that question other than Empire, you need to just start hitting them in the head till they say the right thing.
Yeah, because honestly, no other Star Wars movie, either now the original trilogy, it's like platinum among gold in the original trilogy, the Empire Strikes Back, because Return of the Jedi is not as good as Empire, and A New Hope is not as good as Empire. They both have their faults as compared to Empire, but you take any one of those three movies stand alone, it's still a great movie.
Yeah.
But any of the prequels, for all of these sort of, there are things I appreciate about the prequels, but as movies they suck. As movies and overall storytelling and just enjoyment, they're not that good. Yeah, they really do. There are some elements of it I appreciate. I could go on forever about that. The new stuff from Disney, all of it just sucks ass. As relates to the original trilogy, it's all just so boring and bad.
Garbage.
Yeah, and especially Rogue One. Okay, I haven't seen Solo yet. I hear a lot of people tell me that Solo by itself, if you just kind of ignore the surrounding stuff and take it on its own merits, Solo is pretty good. It's entertaining and fun. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I won't say anything else about it, except for the fact that they released it at the exact wrong time, which was right after Last Jedi or whatever, when Last Jedi sucked. So.
I see it's on Netflix now. I might watch it.
Solo?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now that it's on Netflix, I might give it a shot. Even though the guy that they hired to play Solo is not the guy they should have hired. They should have hired the other guy who'd already played a young Harrison Ford in a different movie or whatever, a play or something. So. Anyway, moving on from that, let's see. Backscan says, female Scarface, wouldn't that be Hillary Clinton? She wishes. Hillary Clinton wishes she was as cool as Scarface. I don't see any other. I'm sure I skipped some here. Let's see. Talked about that. Yeah. Okay.
Can I read a meme that was sent to me?
Sure.
It says on December 7th, 1903, the Wright brothers flew 852 feet. That's 852 feet farther than Nancy Pelosi flew on January 17th, 2018. That was such a great troll. Trump, I tip my hat to you, sir.
Functional says, female Scarface, Lindsay Lohan. You know, she's got her own show on MTV right now.
Oh, yeah. I saw a commercial to that on YouTube.
Like Lindsay Lohan's Beach Party or something, or Beach Club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the last place you should have Lindsay Lohan is on the beach with a bunch of margaritas and shit.
Wasn't the last we saw of her when she was trying to steal little Russian kids?
Yeah. It's like, how much more do you have to fuck up in life to still be given your own TV show? I guess it really, I mean, I guess it's just saying Cash Me Outside can get you $900,000 contract with a duping makeup company. Then fuck me. Let's see. Frosted Glass says, what Star Wars origin story would you want a movie of? Joke answer and serious answer. Origin story.
I want the origin of the Millennium Falcon. And I'm serious.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting story if you could tell it without fucking things up about it. Well, if we're going to like the EU, because honestly, there were some origin stories in the EU that are much more interesting than the ones they revised them to. I'd go to the original Darth Maul origin story. The original Darth Maul origin story, where he's taken in as an apprentice to Palpatine and all this other stuff. That whole mini epic that they just alluded to in a couple of comic books and things. I'd rather see that than the whole revision they did to the Datham Miri and then like crap and whatever. As far as joke answer, the Rancor trainer. The Rancor trainer from Return of the Jedi, and how he found the little Rancor and how he came to be Jabba's Rancor trainer. There you go. Let's see, where did that one? Celtic Mandalore says, do y'all think clones in the Star Wars universe should be treated as humans or less than? Well, the whole clone thing, getting into the social ramifications of having a whole bunch of people that are exactly the same, and they really delved into that a lot more effectively in the Clone Wars TV show or the cartoon show, and in a couple of the novels. Because when you take a step back and think about what that actually means for those individual people, if you think about it on a real world level, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. They're basically seen as cannon fodder, and they kind of knew that. And so to separate themselves and sort of have some kind of identity outside of just being a soldier, they, changed their hairstyles and gave themselves tattoos and try to be something unique amongst all the sameness. That dynamic was really interesting in some of the EU stories and some of the Clone Wars TV show stuff. In real life, I think the rest of the Republic just saw them as disposable heroes, just like droids, basically, but just meat.
Meat droids.
Droids. Let's see. Faithless says, have you seen the Edgar Watches video response to Gillette's ad? I don't know who Edgar Watches is.
Nope.
I don't know what that is. Let's see. For Satsu from Serenity Lotus, what anime universe would you say Lords of the Night would fit in the best?
That's a tough one.
Like we as characters? Because like
yeah.
I don't know. Do we have comic book character analogs? I mean, aside from the artwork, do we operate like comic book characters?
Not really.
No.
I mean, as far as personalities go, I don't know. I don't watch anime, but
I think we'd make a better sitcom.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Celtic Mandalore says, Scribe, have you read the Republic Commando novels? Goes into the lives very well. I read the first couple, and it was very interesting because the author created a whole dialect for the Mandalorian culture, sort of like creating Klingon for Star Trek. And she worked that into the whole thing because the guy that was training that particular squad of clones was a adherent to the Mandalorian code and everything. And that made it kind of cool. I kind of fell out of wanting to read them after I found out that even before Disney took over, if I remember correctly, Lucasfilm kind of just sort of set aside any of that being canon. I think it might have been a pre-Disney takeover move to say that all that stuff was kind of BS, because I think it ran into conflicts with the Clone Wars cartoon when it started coming out. So, yeah. But I mean, Republic Commando, the video game, still a pretty good video game and very different from most Star Wars video games of being a tactical squad kind of thing. Very short, though. The campaign's way too short. Let's see. Oh, we're almost at the top of the hour, guys. Excuse me. And by the time I finish this, we will be. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As you always do, you guys are the best audience on YouTube, anywhere I could have possibly imagine or hope for. You guys interact with us in so many ways that make this show so much more than it would be otherwise with just the three of us yahoos talking to each other. The stories you submit, the questions you ask, everything else. Thank you so much for being a part of the show every night as collectively the fourth Lord of the Night, even though some of you are asking for specific Lord names of your own, but we'll get to that some other time. Remember, guys, shortly after this over on 2 Cents Plus, Monkey and Satsu will be fighting zombies and giving away 3 games in a bundle to some lucky winner. It's Galactic Civ 1, 2, and 3, if I recall.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so there's that, guys. And remember, tomorrow, as always, will be on Monkey's channel at the usual time. And we'll probably have some new Trump news to talk about if his tweet today was any indication of what he's going to do tomorrow. But all that aside, Monkey, Satsu, thank you for joining me as always. Everyone, your lives make us sad, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Later.
You know what I forgot to do?
No.
I forgot to thank everybody for their generosity and donations.
You should do that now.
Almost to a one. I always try never to forget that part because I really, I've said it several times. I am always humbled that you guys feel it that we are worthy of your hard-earned dollars, and I don't take that lightly. And that wasn't a joke. I really do take that seriously. And with that in mind, well, kind of.
Well, while you're flipping, I got something irrelevant to add.
All right, go ahead.
It is the age of VR, and we have not seen a comeback for House of the Dead, and that offends me. Just thought I'd throw that out.
Okay. Well, with that, flipping through my magical book of sexual sorcery, today's secret word. Really? Okay. Today's secret word is debilitating.
All right.
Why not? Expand your vocabulary.